Hey everybody, GeForce 41 here with another PGA Tour 2K23 course review video, and this time it is my own course review. This is a playthrough of my Blue Stream Valley Club. It is a newly released course on PGA Tour 2K23, but this is a port over from PGA Tour 2K21, where it was a port over from TGC 19. So this is a bit of a dated course that I brought back to life, spruced it up and modernized it a bit. So it was well received back in the day. A lot of people have given me compliments on this course. Casuals founder Chelsea Saint calls it probably my favorite design of mine. I'm sorry, his favorite course of mine. And I had a lot of fun with it. So it was fun bringing it back to kind of modern playability standards. So I tend not to port and publish. What I mean is I don't just port it over and hit the publish button. I like to go through my courses and revamp them, work on what needs to be fixed, what I didn't do well the first time, and, I use some feedback that I gathered from folks over the years. But certainly, my course design skills have matured over the years, and I kind of look at things and I'm like, wow, that was bad. So, all those tips I give you on quick tips, that's because I needed them. When I did this course the first time, I needed quick tips, and I got them from certain people. So, that's why I do what I do on quick tips, and what I do with the playthroughs is it casuals worthy, etc. But we're going to talk a bit about that and what else is going on in the world of PGA Tour 2K23, soon to be PGA Tour 2K25. So that is my word of advice. Let me get, there's my little monogram thing there, right? So I was thrilled when I did that way back in the day. So I left that there. A little cheesy, but pretty cool. What I had to do here, actually, let me just tell you one more thing. When this new game comes out, if you're tempted to port and publish, like I said, please don't do it. You want to check out what's changed in the game and what you might need to update on your course, even if it's the greens. The big change between 2K23 and 2K21 is the greens were rolled a little bit better, or a lot better. They were faster. So if you go back and play the older game, you're going to see the greens are like Velcro compared to these. So the older game, 2K21, had greens that were a lot more slopes. You needed the bigger slopes if you wanted a backboard to get the ball to where you wanted it to go, to use the ground game, things like that. So you had to tame down the greens, etc. But I have fun going back to my courses and redoing them, trying new course design strategy, just holes that didn't work. You'll see a few of them here. So the goal of this video is to take you through that, give you a little bit of a glimpse into what goes through my mind designing these courses and these holes, and hopefully you'll find that useful in your designs as well. So let's take this for example. This was never meant to be a drivable hole, but now in 2K23, everybody hits the ball 330 bleeping yards, and so I had to move the tee back. The other thing I had to do is put that tree in, because really I didn't want people going at this green. That was not at all the idea. The idea here is how much do you want to, flirt with that left side, those bunkers in that water, or do you want to bail out to the right and then have a big shot in? Or a longer shot in, I should say. So again, those are the things to think about, right? In the other game, now try to watch some ghosts when you make a course. Everybody was trying to drive it, especially from the up tees. See that tee box in front of me? That's where the original back tees were. So I had to add this tee box way back here. Cuts down on the view off the tee a little, but I added all that grass in. By the way, that grass looks real nice in a desert-based course. And I talked about that in a previous video. I think somebody kind of mixed and matched some grasses. It just, to me, didn't work to the eye. And here's kind of a great use of that grass. So be forewarned, we'll talk about how much planting you need to do if you do a desert-based course. But let's get playing some golf here, okay? So yeah, I moved this tee back. I'm playing medium winds northeast, and I'm playing the second set of tees. I'm going to hit a little draw here with that fairly strong for a medium wind of 9 miles an hour. And just another note, folks, there is no default wind as a designer. When you design a course, a designer cannot designate a default wind and like a prevailing wind. And I like the way this came out and holds up this, I always talk about showing your work. This hole looks pretty in the light. It always did. And so I didn't do too much to this. I tweaked the green a little. But, make sure that you're thinking of these things. When you're playing, a lot of people say, I'm just going to use the default setting. Well, default, when you're a player, if you go to wind and hit and just leave it on default, it's not the default setting that the designer made for the course, a prevailing wind, because it doesn't exist. It's random. It's the same thing as putting random. And so that will, I've noticed, I don't use it very much, but it does just kind of change the wind, right? So it might be going one way on one hole and one way on the other. I don't know how it works, but it could just be a random, it might pick a direction. But try to pick a direction. And as a designer, give a default wind. I think northeast here works well. That's kind of always my default. But it just happens to work here as well. Northeast, east. But you'll see this course is very versatile. So I tweaked the greens, made sure the strategy worked on the holes, the sculpting, made sure the fans and the crowds were scattered enough. I changed some of the trees. One of the interesting things about this game is in the older versions, when you pick the theme, this is a desert theme, you only had a set of trees that went with the theme. So it was a very finite set of trees. So that was the first version. And in that theme were palm trees. Well, there aren't any freaking palm trees native to Arizona, I learned. So when I said about this, I wanted to make an authentic Arizona kind of desert course. And so the palm trees are hard to pull off to begin with, but it just doesn't really work. We'll talk more about that. Let's talk about the second hole. This was a fun one, a little adventurous for me. I mean, this thing is gigantic in the middle, right? But it was fun. So you'll see some of this mulch work around the course to break things up, break up the kind of monotony of what a desert course could get a little boring, but add some character to the course. So you see a bunch of these. But I thought it was cool to kind of give you this split fairway kind of thing. I tweaked these fairways. I made them both a little bit wider and smooth out the splining. And really, you want to be on this right side, which is narrower on most hole locations. This hole location is not going to matter too much, but you can see here that's the better angle. It's the harder shot. It's narrower, and you've got some bunkering on the side. This, you've got a lot more room. You've got a little trouble off to the left, but it really opens up. Opens up to that left side. You can see here you don't want to be coming at this green from this direction too much, right? Especially if you're out a little further. You got to carry that. It's an elevated carry up, elevated green carry over those bunkers. But this whole location isn't a bad one actually for taking that route. Also, it's going to depend on the wind. But with this wind, I kind of want to take it easy. I don't want to be flirting with 11 miles an hour in my face with a forced carry. So just give your player options, right? And the little risk reward. This is a better angle usually, but it's a little tighter drive. So that was all I was thinking there. And it still holds up. And again, let's talk about elevation. And we talked about that on previous videos, and there's a lot of flat courses going on out there. This is an Arizona course which you think might be flat, and for most it is, but 30 feet is a lot. It doesn't have to be 100-foot drops, you folks, okay? I know Newton Commonwealth or Commonwealth Country Club has some big elevation changes. That's real. That's courses built on side of a 200-foot hill. Get some elevation in there. Elevate your greens a little. Just too flat doesn't work. And you'll see why as you go through this course. Again, here, a little elevate. It's only 24 feet up, but look what a difference that makes. Is this, a huge, it's not a mountain course by any means. It's just the land moves a little bit. That's all. Big changes on this hole, okay? So this is what I mean. When you go through your course, think about the hole. Does it still make sense? I probably could have flattened in front of that green even more. That's a bit of a mistake. I missed that. But I flattened the screen. This thing had like 2 or 3 tiers, 210 yards up a hill. Just ridiculous. So I made this green much less severe, but it still kind of falls off to the front, right? But there's no real tiering to speak of. And then I touched up the bunkering around it, touched up these bunkers, and then I had 3 big, huge, ridiculous bunkers. You can still see the indents here a little bit. I flattened it, but they were here, and here. It looked ridiculous. didn't serve any purpose, and I thought it looked cool. So I just kind of scattered the crowd out a little bit, added the trees. We'll get back to the trees. I know I stopped that discussion in the middle of it as we were heading to the second hole. But much better realistic hole here, especially at this distance. Just snuck onto the rough. So yeah, the trees, you know, you had a limited set of trees. There was some cashmere elms and things like that that I really had to stretch to. Obviously, they're cacti all over the place, but those are in the plants. See those trees behind there? Now with the choice of any tree you want, I added some cypress and some mesquite trees, which I thought could be native. I did look it up. There is such a thing as Arizona cypress, so it looks a little bit better with some more modern trees. The cashmere elms were good for touches and dashes and accents here and there. Okay, again, so now we're going down the hill 50 feet. Does it look like huge? No, but again, it's just a little touch of elevation change, right? You had a par 3 going up the hill, now you're teeing off at the same elevation going back down into the valley. Okay, it is indeed called Blue Stream Valley. Why? I forgot to tell you. It is based on Stream Song Blue. So I was checking out Stream Song Blue when I was designing this course. And I saw a couple pictures of my 16th hole. I forget what it is. We'll talk about it when we get there. And I just loved it. So Stream Song Blue in Florida, I just kind of took that as inspiration and based it in Arizona. So that's a doke. And some of these holes are definitely inspired by that course. Not all of them at all. All right. So we're going down hill here. What did I do here? I fixed this fairway. I widened it over here. I fixed the spline. Fixed these bunkers a little bit, touched everything up, touched up that bunker in the distance. And yes, if you're a big hitter, that bunker in the distance on the left is in play, depending on what tees you're on in the wind. So this is going to be drivable with the wind and not so much for me without it. But the strategery here is how much do you want to cut off? Do you want to risk cutting off? Because if you flail one off to the right, if you slow it or whatever, you're not getting there. If you go way over here, you're going to be safe, but you're going to kind of not really have the greatest angle. Okay? So there's just a little bit of a thought process going in to each shot, hopefully. You'll see what I mean. That's going to carry, and the other risk is you're going to carry right through the fairway, which is exactly what I did. So I pulled it into the fairway. You pull it right into the rough through the fairway. I added the kind of mounds there as a little bit more of a defense as well. And yeah, can you run it up there? Sure, but not with that lie in the rough. Oh, yep, especially 3-wood. Look at that, goes down to 60%. So we're just going to want to throw it right out there. Let it run a little bit. Pull that one too. Fasten them. But it doesn't matter too much. So I got crowds and stands all over. It's very tee ready. So we like to say in the casuals. And it fits, right? So this is definitely going to be a good tournament course, a good event course for your societies. Definitely going to play very scoreable. So it's got playability, versatility. You can firm these up. Got the greens rolling. What is it? 150 something? I didn't test it on very fast. So again, you can see another pretty scene off the tee here. 5th hole. Got the stream coming through here. Okay. This is just kind of a prize dog leg. How much do you want to cut off here and try to get over this? Wind's a little bit against us. Like I said, I hit 290. I try to keep in mind 300 carry, as I think most people are in that ballpark, 300, 310. I just saw somebody play the course, do a playthrough. I think it was Rapid. I'm sorry, I forget your number sequence. Rapid something something. Thanks for the playthrough, buddy. He's bombing out there 330. So this wasn't even a consideration to carry it. So that is kind of the trick of designing these things. How far back do you pull these tees? This is playing long, right? It's 7,600 yards. Some of these holes aren't even a test for you long hitters. But again, I just touched up the planting in front of the tee, around the tee for the BTs, I call them. and it's meant to be a little prize dog leggy. That's all. How much do you want to risk taking on that bunker? I mean, I don't use the souped up balls. Sometimes I do for fun. Or if I want to test the course out and say, all right, you know, you guys that really blasted off the tee, how are you going to play this hole? Green, I touched up a little. This green actually I like a lot. It is a little bit more slopey than most, so it's got a little bit of kind of sections. They're definitely not tiers, but you've got a few levels here and a little teeny bit of a false run. And no, there's no hole down there. So with this wind, I'm just going to throw it right at the middle of the green. But you can see how the lighting, soft lighting really works here, the low lighting. We've talked about that. I have a lighting video. Course like this, desert courses and these grasses, it works beautifully. It's a little bit of fog and haze, just a touch to give it that effect. I brought the lighting down just a tad. So this is late afternoon. It's about 1600, 1610, something like that. Brought the inclination down to about 40. You know, I tend not to go too low with the sun. Depends on what I'm making. So 40 isn't very low for most of it. I know, I could tell some of these courses, you guys are down to like 25 or something. All right, here was a big change. Now, this is a fun one. This is what, take a look at your course and see does it make sense. This course, this hole, initially where I have the tee box right now, this was the green. And the tee box is where the current green is, up here. Now, you'll see why this makes no sense whatsoever. Are you ready? Because there's the green right behind me to the on your left, top left of your screen. There's the green we just came off of. You would walk off that green and go to a tee box here and hit this way. Why would you ever walk all the way down there to a tee box and hit all the way back here where you just were? Doesn't make any sense. You got people walking back and forth, especially recreational golfers. That wouldn't make any sense. Now I know it's just a video game, folks, but you know, think of these things. It does make a little bit of a difference. Most people wouldn't notice, but I noticed it when I was redoing. I'm like, well, what the hell did I do that for? I have no idea why I did that. So I put the tee box here. This is the green. See, I kept the shape in the green. That's the just for fun. It looks like a ridiculous tee box. That's the green, the old green. Now I resculpted it and made it flat as a tee box. Added the people, added a little concession stand, and I thought it'd be pretty cool just to go up on that little ledge. Now we'll get a closer look. Whoops. At the ledge there, and just sneak a little green in there, kind of oblong, right, with that backing behind it, and have a green nestled in there. Thought it was a little different, a little change of pace. So that's a good idea for your par threes. Use them as a change of pace, a different look, a different feel, and usually par threes can be links in the routing of the course, right? You got to turn around, you got to do something. That's kind of what it's doing here. It's going back this way, and now the course is going back out the other way. So I just think it looks cool. It's a different look. And speaking of lighting, what do I tell you on my videos? Try not to have the green in the shade. Some people don't like it unless there's a reason. Well, here's your reason. There's a big hill behind it with trees, and that's inevitable. That's adding to the scenery. I don't want to change that, flatten it, or take it out at all. So you're going to have a hole that's into the shade. That's fine. You can play this course if you flip the lighting to dawn in the morning. It actually looks pretty good too. So it's versatile on the lighting as well. Anyway, so I thought this is a good example of a few things. Check your routing. Does it make sense? Be creative with a new hole in a new location. And it shows you where, you know, the rules, there are no rules. I say be careful of the shade on the greens. Yeah, be careful, but doesn't mean you can't have them. Doesn't mean you can't have people standing on top of that cliff either. I put them up there for fun. Would they be up there in real life? Probably not. Maybe they would. Who knows? Maybe there's a hiking trail up there, right? That was a really horrifically weak putt. Talking, thinking, and playing. Not as easy as it looks. And I'm going to take a bogey here. But I threw that little stand there. It's a little far away, yeah, sure. But that's why I threw the people up on the hill there. But that hill looks really cool, especially in that far left hole location. One's over there. I think it's 4. I think 1 and 4 are on the left. 2 and 3 are over here. Looks pretty cool. So now it makes sense. You go back to 7, just walk off the screen to the right, and you're off to 7, and you've turned around out to the rest of the course. Okay, 7. What you're going to see here, changes I made. Why is there a bunker here? I think this was in the last version I had it here. Well, you'll see from the next hole, this is a exploit factor here. This is so you don't exploit this fairway to go to that green there on 8 on the next hole. And I put those trees in. We'll talk about that in the next hole. But if you're wondering off the tee, why is there a bunker there 200 yards out? That's why. And you'll see why a lot better in the next hole. So I had a few of these centerline bunkers. I had way too many of them, so I got rid of most of them, but I kept a few. This is one of them because it makes sense. Which side do you want to go for? Now, obviously, if you go to this right side, there's a bunch of hole locations that make sense for it. The front right, it certainly does. This hole location, not as much. There's not as much room, and you risk going off down here into the stuff. You big hitters could even probably go into the drink. Up here, you've got to get up the hill a little. Right, there's a hill. There's a bit of a plateau up there. If you get up there, you're golden. Or you can kind of fade one off the left side if you're a bigger hitter. So the key is to kind of get up this hill. I've got the wind behind me, so I'm going to go straight over this. This wind is very, very helpful on this hole. If it was in my face, it'd be hard to get up to that plateau. So again, it's playability. This hole's going to play way different depending on the wind and the hole location. Okay? So it's going to have different looks in different conditions in different rounds. And that's one of the main things I'm always going for when I'm designing a course, because I want them played in events and tournaments. And yes, I've gotten in with the casuals because I choose the courses, so I know I'm going to use it in an event, right? But also the fine folks at TGC Tours use my courses. Dan on Kinetic uses them quite frequently over the years. Thank you, Dan. The best scheduler around. I don't claim to have that title. Dan is outstanding. Oh, my punting is terrible. Touched up the bunkering as well. The slopes on the green. Always check your slopes on your green. Redo them. They're just a little touch here and there. That's all it takes. Alright, I should be scoring. This is an easy scoring course, to be honest with you. Okay, 8th hole. You'll see this one. It's almost like a little bit of a bottle concept, but you'll see what I mean here. So, you got to cut that thin neck here, but I've given you this flat area right here, the kind of 3-wood option that gives you a better angle in. Now, that hole location's kind of tough to get to, but most of them, that's a pretty good spot to be right there, even though it's a longer shot in, rather than if you want to risk it over, here. If that pin is tucked to the right, it's going to be next to impossible to get to from that rough. So what do people do? They're going over here. So I got 2 big trees over there kind of in the way and a bunker to prevent anybody from really bombing over there. Could you still do it? Yeah, go ahead. But I don't know why you would. It's a lot easier shot over here. So this is a fun spot to try. I try to always give you a nice big 3-wood option, but you've got that big bunker. That whole location, playing 471 with the wind in your face, not for today. So again, we're going to hit a little draw. Block that one. Get over. Oh. So now you're going to see what I mean. That's not going to be too easy to roll it up there, right in this position. That's a 4-iron. That's going 76, 70, 83. Well, we're going to see what's going to happen there. We're going to give it a little bit of a cut. See if I can roll it. Nope. Oh, no, it's going to be okay. And again, this is a green. The entrance to the green, I flattened it a little, but it is elevated. But you can see it's still fairly smooth. Okay, you don't want that big hump there that I talk about all the time, and that's why. Even though it's elevated, you can still run it up there, perhaps if you got enough juice on it. Here we don't. And I'm going to flop this one. With a little bit of roll. Nope. Should have went up one. That's a tough hole location. But you can see I kept the crowds kind of consistent around the course. So this, works as a stadium course. Almost, It's not really TP Scottsdale, but a little bit. You can see like the 17th hole was one of the only. It's a short four, drivable four. Oh, my punting is brutal today. Okay, I'm gonna have to pledge you. I'm gonna take a double. My God, I'm gonna pay more attention to my putting. All right, next hole's pretty fun. 9, the par 5. It's kind of got a serpentine S-shaped fairway thing going on. I kept it. Oh, I got a spline issue. Why am I hitting 3-wood here? Interesting. With this wind, I got plenty of room. This is very drivable. 22 feet down the hill off the tees, and then it's a little bit of an elevated green you'll see here, fronted by kind of a big waste bunker, and the stream is off to the left. You've got a little bit of a hill helping you on the right, bringing you in, and then the green, we'll talk about it when I get down there. But let me hit this. I touched up the splining, made it a little smoother, got rid of some of the fairway, the bunkers off the fairway that just didn't make sense. I felt this fairway was narrow enough and S-curvy enough to give you a sufficient challenge, because the fun here is going to be the second shot in. So again, I didn't want this to be too much of a pain off the tee. And you'll see here now we've got very reachable green, but not a very deep green. So this back section, I added that a little. It was basically a figure 8, and you kind of couldn't hold it. And I had a little collection area back there, and you know, people would just blast over. I said, why not just make that green and put a hole, give it a hole location back there. So we're coming up to the clubhouse here. Bigger crowd gathering. We got a lot of wind. We got a little backboard, and you got a little bit of a side hill there to help me off the side. But it's uphill, so I'm going to just hit a little bit of that, a little bit of that, a little bit of that. See if I can kind of just draw one in there. Land it a little soft. Trickle down to the left a little. A little. Come on. All right, not bad. Eagle time. And we are going to focus. Where is that? There we go. A little this way, a little that way. Too much. Too much. And I pulled it. That is not a good leave. Got it anyway. Dead center. Should have been a tap-in bird, but we will take it the way I played the last 3 holes. So there's the front. Now we're heading out to the back. We're getting some sage advice from our caddy here. And again, you see there's those kind of centerline bunker things. I kept them in with the planning. I just thought in the first version of the course, it added a little character to it, kind of gave it that desert feel, right, back in the day. And I've got one of those mulch things off to the side. And, you know, interesting hole. Again, this is just a play on a short 4, not a drivable 4. Although some of you can really bomb it up this neck ahead of where I am. That was never the intention to have it play this way. The wind is behind me here, so I can bomb one over this thing here into this section. Wind against you, it's going to be a little bit more challenging. But again, the question is, which way do you want to go? Because down here, I gave you a nice little 3-wood option. Again, that is nice and flat, okay? And in most instances, that's actually going to be a better angle in. You're going to have more room to the green here. This whole location you could do, but actually probably not on this whole location. You do want to be out to the left a little. So with this wind and that whole location, I'm going over here. Wind in your face and kind of that left pin position, you might want to rethink that strategery. Now, the challenge here is going to get one of these little in-betweeners, right? 68 yards. I stink at these. So, you know, sometimes you're better just laying back to a full wedge. I also put in that mulch area. I had these stands way too far back, but I didn't want to pull them up too close. And I thought it would be just kind of neat to put that little mulch area in there. So again, just add these little touches to fill your course out. Because really, one of the big challenges if you've designed in this theme is filling it out. The planting took forever on the initial one. If you look at my initial TGC Tours thread, let me focus on this birdie putt. Oh, look at that! Look at that blue line. What is with me today? The initial thread, I said, oh, I wanted to design a great idea. You know, I wanted to design a desert theme. And it was just so painful to plant the first go around. Now, I just had to touch things up. I could copy and paste a few grasses. And the multi-plant tool worked pretty well here. This is a pretty one. You got the stream on the side. And I redid this one big time. I felt it was a cool hole in the initial versions, but it really didn't work. It had a huge centerline bunker and like no room on the right. So it didn't make sense. You know, all those things I tell you when you do a hole and do a centerline bunker, I didn't do any of them. So there really wasn't much of an option to go down the right side. So I said, why don't I go back to my initial inspiration and go check out some Stream Song Blue hole. So this, forget exactly what hole it is. It might actually be their 11th. That has nothing to do with it, the number, but the same kind of concept where you've got this big area here. If you've got the wind at your back, you might actually run out of room, especially if you're a bigger hitter than I am. You will. You could put a 3-wood down here, something like this. In most instances, now look at this green. It's an L-shaped green. Okay? You're going to want to have this angle in from this direction. You might, if you're in your back right, want to come from this direction. So again, it's wind, it's angle, it's a couple things to think about. Here, I got the wind in my face, so I have no risk of running out of room. So you can go off to the left here and just kind of curve one around. And I gave you a little bit of slope too, right? To curve you down to, slope it down to the water naturally. But that also gives you a little bit of a break off the tee if you want to sneak one in that little neck there. But again, you don't need 100 bunkers all over your courses to make them strategic. You just need that little bit of rough jutting out. Okay, added the grasses. I had some really unique looking bunkering, swirly bunkers around this one in the previous version. Just kind of looked dated, so we got rid of it. Just want to take a little off. Fast it a little bit, that's going to work. It's actually going to work nice. Get up there. You can see those grasses a little big. You know, the trade-off with the grass is you want it visible, especially off the tee or in the distance. You got to make it a little bigger. But if you get up close, it might look ridiculous. Right, we've talked about that before. And he finally hit a decent putt. All right. Birdies 2 of the last 3 after bogey double run. 12. This one's a fave. Didn't have to do much work here. And you can see why. Added a little bit more grasses, but this is a pretty picture. So that's the 2-hole location off to the right. One is over there. So you can see if you come over, play this in your holes there, number 1. Look how nicely framed this is. Not patting myself on the back. I'm just saying I did a good job as an early designer trying to paint this pretty picture after watching videos from other people, from the likes of Matt F. 27, I think. I was watching a lot of his videos back then, so I'll give him a hat tip in framing this hole just right this way. So you got the pretty grasses, the pretty lighting, you got the kind of haze and fog in the distance, and you got this kind of neat hole. I toned down this green. I think I had 3 tiers in the initial version. Yes, I am guilty of making greens with 3 tiers. Still a unique shape. Pretty big green. So as you can expect, there's a pin in the left, and there's one in the middle and one in the back. But it's just a nice scenic hole, and I already got a few more compliments on this one from folks that are newer to the whole course. Get over. You shouldn't have any problems with the water here. You really got a whiff on one. But you can certainly see how this one was well received. And I appreciate those positive comments. So just add, break up the scenery with a hill, things like that. Sometimes you want a huge sight line if you're doing a coastal course down to the water, things like that. But sometimes just put some hills in like I did to kind of break it up because everything was super flat. Did I add the bench? I don't know. I added some fencing, some benches. 13. Again, this one looks real pretty. Did some work on this one. I had 3 huge bunkers and then this ridiculous bunker in the middle. And I got rid of that. and it was about at the location that big waste bunker on the left, and I basically just created that waste bunker on the left. Had the fairway, had the rough jut out. That is from up tees and bigger hitters downwind going to come into play. Looks like it's far in the distance here for me, but it's really not. And then here again, it's strategically how much do you want to try to cut off. It's going to depend on the wind, etc. I've got the wind in my face, so I'm not going to be too risky here. But then look at the green. We'll look a little bit more as I get down there, but you've got the bunkering off to the left. So again, another reason you want to be on the right side of this fairway. So you're going to want to risk that. This is the safer shot, but you'll see when we get down there why it's not exactly advantageous, especially depending on that whole location. So I've got the wind right in my face. And again, you see just a little elevation change, 16 feet, that's all, right? Stay away from the flat stuff. This is not going to be drivable into the wind for me. But you can see here how this really impacts the hole. Because if you're way over there, now you got a forced carry, you can't run it up. And it's just a little elevated. Do you see what a difference that makes? You got to get up that hill. To run it up there would be really hard. And yes, I flattened out the green entrance, right? I have a green entrance video. One of the biggest mistakes I see designers make is not smoothing that green entrance. Even if it's elevated, you don't want that stupid bump there. Why do I say it all the time? Because I see it all the time. It drives me crazy. And it's such a simple thing. And again, this bunkering and this hole, I took a little inspiration from a par 5 on Stream Song Blue. Let's see. The other thing, is this the hole with the mini golf? Oh yeah. I had to take up space. So you got a little village over there, kind of a fan experience center, and you got a little mini golf course there. So there you go. Some mini golf. Not the most exciting mini golf course, but it will do for this course. I've seen what you guys do for real out there. Amazing stuff. With your 9-hole courses, your mini hole courses. Cool stuff. But I'm just trying to think of creative ways to take up space. Because there's just a lot of space. And again, I've got the stands in the shadow, but the hole is not in the shadow here. There's no reason for that. So you can do it. And that, I think, adds a little bit of, feel and ambiance to the course. Another lackadaisical putt. He will take the par and move along. This is a fun one. A little bit on the more creative and goofy side, but you can see just this is going up the hill. The green you can see from here is 66 feet up. And it's an elevated shot. I'm sorry, elevated fairway relative to the green. I got this principal nose bunker here that I had in the original. I've kept it. It's kind of unique looking. I think it's cool. A little dated maybe, but why not keep it there? It's a good visual off the tee, certainly. And so now you've got a decision to make. You can sneak a 3-wood in here. You can kind of kick a field goal through the uprights right over here. And this, I give you a little bit of a help with the slope there, but it does go downhill over here. If you're a big hitter, you can carry it depending on the wind. Or this is on purpose. This isn't an exploit. I give you, this is the next hole coming back down the hill. I gave you this on purpose because look at the green. You come from that angle, it's actually advantageous. So it's going to be maybe a little bit further, but it seems a little silly, but I gave this to you on purpose because that's what I was thinking. You could actually do that if you want. So this green was pretty gnarly. With this wind, actually, let me think what I'm going to do here. Now I got to think because I don't want that shot all the way up that hill with the wind in my face. This is probably the toughest wind you're going to have. I'm going to actually try to sneak one in there. And I whiffed totally. So I'm going to get lucky, actually. There's a waste bunker. See from the next hole. The next hole is super fun. And you'll see how that works. So kind of pretty view here, but you've got a big backstop. You want to give this extra. Do I even give it one more? No, it's going to be too much. You know what, though? I got to give it a lot. So I'm going to pull back on this one. See what happens. And now it's going to be way too much. I've got that big gap in my clubs. It makes it a little tough. Onto the cart path. Yeah, that path has been there all along. Like I said, I don't mess around with cart path too much anymore. I don't think they're worth it. Depends on the type of course you're doing. And you see, this green was really ridiculous. So, believe it or not, this is way toned down. Again, it had like 2 or 3 tiers. You can see how that grass is actually pretty big. And it's still, you got some red going on. So, I believe it or not, this was toned down. And you can see why. Because if it was any worse than this, it was a little ridiculous. But I left it. It just, I wanted a green or two to still present that same kind of change of pace and level of difficulty. But it plays just fine. Alright, this is the fun bombs away down the hill hole. You have at it. I played this wind on purpose because it gives you that wind, the perfect wind for this hole. You can bomb this thing 360 down this thing. I mean, even more. Probably some of you are going to hit 400-yard drives. So just have at it. Have fun. I didn't do too much to the fairway. I fixed the spline. Definitely fixed the green area. I fixed all the bunkering around the green. I've always had it surrounded by bunkers. There you can see it's just going to take that hill and keep going. So unless you fast one and pull it way left, you're looking good. You want to cut off as much as you can on the right. But you can use the hill as well. So I fixed the bunkering and the planting around here. This was a pain to sculpt, but I try to keep it flat. And then there's no real run up here, right? I'm just gave you a little path to walk. With the wind, downhill, downwind. That even might be much. Let's see what this does. Downhill, downwind. Is that going to scoot up there? I think it will. There you go. That's all it's designed to do. So you're sitting pretty. So you can see how you could really score on this course. Another decent putt. There we go. Definitely scoreable, but firm it up, fast it up, add some wind. You can make this one play a little challenging. Should hold up. The greens are pretty firm already, just I figured it's Arizona. So this is the hole I was telling you about. 16 is a inspired by, it was a basic inspiration for the course. Again, I forget the Stream Song Blue hole. I think it's 11, 7, I don't know. It's a par 3 over a big body of water. Here it's my stream. I don't know exactly what it's a stream or a pond in Stream Song Blue. And it's a long 200-something yard par 3. In the old game, this was a huge backstop here. Everybody was hitting off the backstop and watching it roll down. It made it a little bit more lifelike. Smoothed the green out just a tad, fixed the bunkers a little, but basically kept it as is. Because that's the kind of, signature hole of the inspiration for the course to start with. Again, it's got the pretty bridge. I got a bridge off to the right there, as you can see. And this one is, not going to be the most challenging. Well, we've got a 10-mile-an-hour wind. Par 3 you've ever seen in this game. But can you imagine this in real life? The forced carry, 200 yards. I think it's a little shorter in the real life version. But again, you've still got a pretty big forced carry off the tee here. So us mere mortals might be quaking in our boots. Playing a legit hole like this. But for you in this game, a mere chip shot at 230 yards, right? Be curious to see what they do in 2K25. Oh, that wasn't a bad putt either. So my putting's coming around finally. About the distances off the tee. They ratchet it up, keep it the same, make it a little harder. I keep my guy this way. I just think it's more realistic. Bombing at 330, that's fine if you're Rory, I guess. But anyway, so this one's meant to be a drivable 4. You can see how it's a very drivable some with the wind that are hit a little bit longer than myself. I wrestled with what to do here. Now, don't forget the prior games, we didn't hit it this far. In the prior games, I think at TGC 19, you probably still had that Master Pro Amateur thing going on. played those games, you know what I mean. So, you know, people wouldn't hit it that far, and so I gave you this option back here. Which I don't think anybody in this game is going to be laying back here, but you could see for realism that somebody, me in particular, if I was playing this hole for real, I'd just hit a 5-wood down here, something like that. 3-wood would kind of get me up in here, and there's just too much risk with that. Here, you just want to drive it down here. I kept it like this. I forget, I might have had a bunker over there. I think I had bunkers in front of the right side of the green. I just said, make this kind of a par 3.5, where it's going to be drivable, and a par is going to be like, you know, a bogey. And, oh, I didn't mean to pull it. I wanted to show you what my thinking was. Oh, that's going to work out well. If you hit that fairway off to the right, anyway, the point is, it's going to be one of those little awkward 37, 40-yard pitch shots up the hill. So it's going to be just an awkward up and down. This worked out really well. Maybe even chip it in. But what you want is this on this hole. Tap in birdie at worst. Shot at a 2. If you make a 4, it's kind of like a bogey. So kind of a little par. 3.5 coming down the stretch in a tournament. You can see how could be a pivotal hole. It's your opportunity to score. If you blow it and take a par, you miss the opportunity. All right, so pretty little scene on 18. Fixed the background scenery there a little bit. Got the stage set right there, literally, with people in the stands. Got a bigger crowd. You got the stream off to the left, and it's a little bit of a tight drive. The only thing you can do here is miss the fairway and you're in deep you-know-what. Because you've got a forced carry into the green, which you're probably going to have to lay up if you pull one into the drink. If you really bomb one, you might be able to carry your second shot, but you're taking a big risk. You could actually, you bigger hitters go over this thing, but you don't have a lot of stopping room. So really it's made to just hit your little fade off the tee, get yourself in position, and if you pull one, or you got the wind pushing you that way, you could be in lay deep doo-doo, like I am now, and you'll see why. I get a good lie in the rough. 70, not bad. 70 might be doable. I had a 60% or last time I played. So actually, this is the second taping in this video. I taped one yesterday, and the microphone didn't pick up. So I had to do the whole thing over. All right, so I'm going to max this out. That's going to be 60. That's going to be 70. I think I'm going to be able to do it 70. Take 2/3 of that. Divide. So 1/3 of that is 70. It's going to be... If I take 70 away... Ooh, it's going to be close. The other thing I could do here... Go off to the side here. Off to the side here. I might wind up in that bunker. Maybe if I try to split those bunkers. But you see how it's going to force a decision. He's going to make it. Either way. So you don't want to miss the fairway. Bottom line, don't miss the fairway on this hole. And we're going to give it a little extra, a little bit of roll out of the big grass and into the bunker. So, as you can see, it's a very scoreable course, and I've messed it up terribly, but as I've always said to you, it is really hard to play and talk. For me, at least. Touched up the scenery, the people around, big gallery. Signs out there. For a bogey to end it. Get in. Oh, very fitting end to my pathetically bad putting round. Kicks it in. Not the way you want to fish, but you can see this is a very scoreable course. My putting is what really let me know. But I hope you enjoyed it. So Blue Stream Valley is my latest. It is a port from the earlier games. So I repeat, please do not port and publish in the new game. Try to touch up your course a little. I think it's fun. But I hope you enjoyed it. Very tee-ready course. We will be featuring it in Casuals Golf Club in Season 40, which starts next week. But I think I'll have this in Week 2 as the big weekender. But that is all for this video. I thank you so much for joining me. Keep tuned in for more quick tips Is it casuals worthy? If you got a course you want me to play through, drop it in the comments. If you have any other topic you want to hit me up on as far as course design, let me know. So once again, thanks for joining in, and talk real soon. Bye for now.